All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to our season two of Thrivecast. I am not the lovely Dominique, but you are actually seeing another lovely face. It's the one and only Denard. I get an opportunity to work with Dominique and also numerous others. And so I'm actually going to bring right away an opportunity for our very own to join too much time. But while we're waiting on our very own, we will get a behind the scenes look at what's happening when we're orchestrating this Thrivecast. So we've done it a couple of times. Now we're in season two, and I'm bringing the one and only Jeff Boyd online with us right now. And Jeff, I was just telling everyone, neither of us have the lovely face of Dominique, but hopefully that space. We just want to welcome everyone to season two of Thrivecast. And this is a special feature. So it's not the normal, but we guarantee that you will receive, if not just as much of you as you have in the past, but even more. So I have, and welcome again, everyone. If you can, just for a moment, just let us know where you're logging in the chat. Let us know where you're logging in from. Jeff, where are you at? I see there's a thing in your background. Where are you logging from?
So this is Stephen Payne's old office. Stephen, if you're watching, a shout out. So I don't know if you can see, it's his. He's got the Andrews University up on the wall. So I thought I'd sneak in here. Hey, and
you're in Orange Springs with me, huh?
Right here in Berrien Springs. And is this mic too hot? Is it peaking, distorting?
It's perfect. Perfect.
Cool.
And you seem like a sound guy. So I just want to jump right into it. I want to jump right into it because this is probably the first time many people are getting to know you. And I'm also getting a chance to get to know you even better. I have my own personal question that I would like to ask in regards to just getting to know you. And it's an odd one. It's just a bit odd, but I just like you to entertain me for just a moment, right?
Okay.
And using the word entertainment, I'm just thinking about one, because Jeff is a normal name. Like I know numerous people by the name of Jeff. And so I just want to know if this Jeff that I'm talking to, Jeff Boyd, if you were to identify a soundtrack that would represent your life, what would it be and why?
So yeah, man, music, that's good stuff. So I'm thinking U2, Michael Franti. Maybe I'll go with Michael. Stay Human. Michael Franti, Stay Human. There we go.
So I was familiar with U2, but when you went to Michael Franti, I was completely lost there. So what genre are we talking about?
Oh man, so it depends on the album, but kind of like man, yeah, it really depends on the album. He's all over, from like acoustic, hip hop, jazz,
Wow.
all you rebel rockers out there. He's got you covered. Yeah, so I'm thinking of Stay Human, just that idea. Yeah, who we are, what does it mean for humans to thrive, and he's all about that. So yeah,
So
yeah.
Word, what it is for humans to thrive. And this is why we're here today. We're here in essence, we have a framework, a modality, a belief that the creator God actually created us all with the capacity to thrive. And if I were to just put it in layman's terms for myself, that we all were created with the capacity to live out our best life, right? And but there are some things that we need to be reminded of, and our Thrivecast here is just one of those things to help remind you that you were created to thrive. But in addition to that, there are certain parts of the thriving that we've highlighted. We've talked about made to dream, made to explore. Like there's a numerous amount of things. And in that, we've funneled down in season two to discuss things as productivity, and now I just want to kind of get more of the background of this Jeff that's here. Jeff, what is it that you do? And just for everyone that's listening in, Jeff, you and I, we do something which is helping everyone enjoy this Thrivecast, but we work in the background, right? So what is it that you do? And can you just share a little bit about your educational background and your aspirations? And I'm sure you wear numerous hats here at Andrews, and you stolen Steve's office. So what else gave you the right to do that?
So my office is on the other side of this wall, but I don't have a good background like that, so I wanted to hop over here. So this is the communication office out in Griggs A, and yeah, this summer I transitioned to the communication team. I've worked in communication in the past. You're right, Jeff is a common name. There was a year in school we had 3 Jeffs in the classroom, and 2 of us were Jeff B's, so that didn't even solve anything. Yeah, so I worked in the research office, Dr. Gary Burdick, Mordecai Ongo, Dr. Ongo, and great team there looking at research on campus and promoting research, grant writing, and great things from underclass, undergraduates all the way through faculty. And so, but now great to have this opportunity to explore this creative side. I've worked in communication in the past for the Red Cross, for Adventist Today magazine, and some others. And so, yeah, so here, once I joined this team here in communication, it's doing traditional media like news releases, when ABC or WNIT or whoever comes on campus, connect with them, and social media stuff like this, and digital production, so video production, podcasts. Becky St. Clair, so she was here in communication. I think it was 2017. I was in a research office, and we started the Andrew Speaks podcast, and things just come along, and now I've joined up on this team, and it's so great to be sharing this experience with you and Dominique. You also asked about education, and my education is a mess, and after this you'll be answering these same questions, right? You'll be today. Yeah. So undergrad, I studied everything and changed my major enough times, but finished with religion and psychology. Then later did an MBA and did a master's in peace studies at a Mennonite seminary in Indiana, associated, or now Anabaptist Mennonite Biblical Seminary. And so some of that peace element I'm going to bring into the conversation today. I do some teaching once in a while on campus, and so we're going to get into some of that. I want to bring how that connects here with the creativity piece, and
yeah.
So that's enough background of what I bring and why I'm here. And it definitely is the background of running a podcast like this. I host and kind of produce the Adventist Peace Radio podcast for the Adventist Peace Fellowship, and so I definitely like the background. I'm more comfortable there than here in the front side. But it's really good to get together and talk about why we want to promote this, what this means to us, and why this is important. So you now you've hosted a few episodes. You hosted the Thriver feature with Rachel Keel, season 1, and you've had an episode where you and Dominique were engaging, but still, let's hear some more from you on your introduction. Maybe some pieces people haven't heard yet or engaged yet.
My story is not as glamorous as yours. So just to distinguish the role. So in the background, you're the executive producer, and what I get a chance to do here with Thrivecast is actually, as Dominique's graduate assistant, I get to capture some of the quotes as these podcasts are happening, engage with people in the chat, live holy. But what I've done prior and what I'm doing currently is I'm a dual degree student here, mastering in social work and also in the seminary. And then in addition to that, I'm also an evaluator at Spectrum Health Lakeland. And most importantly, I am also known as Papa Canaan, whom we just went from, my wife and I, by the name of Oda. Shout out to Oda. We actually just welcomed, not just, but 9 months now, is his ninth birthday, Kanan Denard Fenaud. So those are my tasks. And also why this is also important. I would actually say, why did I get involved in this is because, simply to be honest, with all these things on my plate, that's one thing I've struggled to do. I feel like I've survived but not thrived, and just hearing that, like, one of the ones that stood out to me the most was actually Ty's and Dr. Fisher, Ty Gibson, when they just talked about the Dr. Fisher talked about neuroplasticity, being able to create new pathways. But Ty talked about just finding that place where your passion and your aptitude intersects, right? And there, it was really interesting to me. It really blew my mind, to be honest, because now I'm asking myself, like, how do I do this thriving in my everyday life, with all these things on my plate, right? And how do I find that peace that you talked about? So I actually have an interesting question for you, and I don't know where you want to go with this, but you leaned into, like you said, your educational career is all over the place, but you're teaching, and you've also not just dibbled and dabbled in it, but you believe in moral peace, right? So I'm actually interested in, how do you thrive, find that balance of peace, but do it creatively, right? Creatively in your everyday life. Like, how do you not find just this constant balance of just going on with the monotonous aspect of your everyday life, as a father, a husband, a sibling, like, how do you find that creative spark?
Oh man, there's so many pieces here. So many pieces. So this intersection of peace and creativity and thriving. So first, what you pointed out was really good. The family that's involved, and just like you, I'll give a shout out if Victor's watching, and Carissa, because that surviving versus thriving. I think every one of us watching and listening to this, like, we all have that struggle, right? It's not like every single person on earth has this balancing struggle. We have relationships, we want to stay balanced, but we want time with God, but we need time to exercise, we need time to develop our mind, and we need rest, and we need time that allows us to create and explore, and on and on and on. And all of us struggle with each stage in life, that changes, like going to university. You have to figure out a new balance, how to get those in, and getting married and having a kid and a new job. Like, every stage in life, you have to rethink this out and figure this out again. And it's not like you ever really get it solved, but it's like always that when life throws us off balance in a new way, it's like, okay, what's the thing that's getting lost here, and that I need to refocus on. And so I think it's healthy and wise for all of us just to acknowledge that up front, that, like, every guest that's been on the show, can it's not like everybody who's on thrives 100% of the time, and then everybody else that's watching, no, it's like we're all struggling. We all are searching for how to do that, and we're all looking for ways that we can double up. Like, okay, I'll exercise and I'll listen to a book on audio book or podcast. Like, okay, I'm doing my mind and my body at once, or I'll go for a walk with my wife, so we can, we're all looking for ways to thrive. But when you bring in that peace element, and I'm gonna hit this a few different angles today. So peace. So I'll set up this. I think I'm not really getting to the heart of your question, but I do want to throw this in, like, kind of thinking how we think of that word peace, and what it means to me, because it's got this huge semantic field. It means we're not in war, or we're not in conflict, or there's calm, or like inner calm. But so going to seminary and studying shalom and beginning to get just a bigger sense of when Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, the shalom makers. Like, what is that shalom? What are we after here? And it's such a bigger word than I realized. And it like, I really think like it means to thrive. It means wellness, wholeness. It means justice. It means flourishing. It means the complete welfare of the whole person. Like that's thriving. That's like Jesus, like, blessed are the peacemakers, the thriving makers, the ones who are out pursuing it, going after it, trying to do it for themselves, for others, for the community. And it does mean, an element of harmony in relationships and some sort of calm in the middle of the storm inside, but just it's not limited to that. That shalom is this big, huge, beautiful word and can be explored in so many ways. And so, so this whole podcast is about being peacemakers. It's one part of, like, it's not one part, but it's one element. Like, it's there are also, like on that Adventist Peace Radio, we talk about other things like some more social justice themes or conflict resolution themes, or so there's that element to it also. But that's what we're doing here is, man, I want to be peacemakers. I want to promote thriving. I want wellness and wholeness for everyone in my community. Who is missing out on that? Who needs to be brought into that? Because societies are always pushing out, who's not thriving, and so who needs the resources to thrive, and what is that, opportunities, and it's just all kinds of directions to go with that. But that's what we want. We want to be thriving in our body, in our relationships, thriving with God, thriving in our mind. That's peacemaking. That's the wholeness. That's what God wants for us. And so I see this whole pursuit, this whole project as a deeply spiritual act of peacemaking. And so yeah.
Man, that's beautiful, Jeff. Like, man, I think I just fell in love with you in front of everybody. Like, oh, there's so much kind and robust language there that I don't think we've ever broadened it to that space that you just. But I remember, and I just share this very briefly when and going to the next part, which for me is like, because you did talk about you teaching, so I'm curious about how you implement this in your teaching, with knowing that we're in a fast pace. Some people talk about it like a fast food community or country or an environment. So just to give a feel of, before we get there, I do want to kind of sit in what you said. Man, time is always running, but I just want to sit and lean in a little bit into that, because there's so much kind and robust language in what you said. Like, I remember Oliver Glons, shout out to Professor Glons. He shared that during a Wellness Ambassador meeting where our rally was. He did the devotional thought, and he suggested too, shalom is well-being, the collective well-being. And so when you said that, it just reminded me of this thriving framework. That's why we had to break it into parts, because it's so easy to put it in an abstract language. Yeah. But like I pointed out, like, there's so many transitions that we're going through in life, right? And I love the way you put it, is there's an everyday indicator in that, where but those that are around me are not. Does that really mean I'm thriving? Because there's a communal aspect to it, right? And it looks like you want to say something on that. So I'm just curious to, how do we navigate that? How do we move forward knowing that the inequality exists with the levels of degree that people seem to be thriving, especially if I have this classmate that may be dealing with a grief or loss, and here it is, I'm happy about my A. How do I celebrate that moment?
Oh man. There's, my mind just goes all these directions. So it will always be, for me, communicating through writing will always be easier than through speaking. But so one thing I think of, Galatians 6:2 is one element.
Mhm.
carry each other's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Like we are in this together, and who's got a burden I can help carry, because tomorrow I'm going to need help with my burden. Like this whole Jesus thing is communal. Carry each other's burdens and fulfill the law of Christ. Like that was his love. Love is interactional, communal. And so my thriving and everybody else's thriving, we're like, there's no way to disconnect it. We are all connected. I don't have the quotes right off, but both Ellen White and Martin Luther King Jr. have almost identical quotes about that, about how we're connected, and we're all in this together. And so, yeah, to share each other's joy, to share each other's harder times. Yeah, when somebody needs support so that they can thrive, like, you need an arm around you. Let me tie this into the Thriver feature you did with Rachel Keel. Like that episode really spoke to me because of a health problem I had, serious neck injury, C2, C3. The doctor said if it happened again, I could be paralyzed, and to have it that high, like it was just like, it was a life-changing situation, and readjusting is in so many ways through life. But when things were falling apart, so I was living in South Korea dealing with this big thing, like students of mine would go to the doctor with me and translate for me in Korean, so that I could communicate with the doctors. Eventually I flew back to the US, and a friend picked me up at the airport, and just so many people had to help me through those weeks and months of getting some things worked out, and then longer. It's like it was just this huge, I needed so many people in so many different ways, their support, so I could get back to thriving. Because that was like when we talk about this survive versus thrive, like that was the valley, like what is life going to be like now, what is this new thing? And all the people, like family, friends, students, all the people that were there to get me through that hard time, to get back to a thriving situation, and the months and in some ways years it took. And so I just think it is deeply communal. We need each other. We need to be looking for the people who we can help thrive and that help us thrive. Like it's got to be this mutual thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And just a reminder, if I could take a pause, because there was a lot there, and I just want to take a pause for any student that's watching this. The co-curricular credit will be available afterwards in the bio, and also we'll also post it in our postings as well on social media. So just stay tuned, stay throughout, because we're getting to know this awesome Jeff that I work with, that I didn't know all this stuff about. We've had numerous conversations where, and just to be honest, for everyone here, I think it's a unique thing within Adventism to see people from two different lived experiences share moments in their work, because sometimes we can make our work more important than the people we're working with, and I found I've become very fond of you, and how you live out your life in front of me has been a huge blessing. As a student, to see an administrator not carry the mantle of administrator over my head, but like, hey, what are your thoughts? And so I'm curious to see, and this probably will be my last question, because I know I've been asking you a lot of questions. I'm just so intrigued by you, Jeff. I'm curious to see how, when knowing all that you've been through and having to depend on your own students, how do you help your students navigate what some have called new normal? Some have lost loved ones. How do you help them navigate this space where they may feel like they're surviving or in the midst of that thriving too, but you're also you're a creative thinker, you're creative in your own right. So how do you help them move from this survival to thriving, but also to be creative, in your classroom? And what is it that you teach? And if you have a specific story where you don't necessarily have to call out the student, but something that stands out to you that represents that, please feel free to share. Or you can go in any other direction that you feel apt.
Yeah. So I've taught a few things. Again, it's a mess, from economics to creativity, innovation. communication. Uh, when ThriveCast started, I was teaching a class on creativity and innovation, part of the that program here. And excuse me, part of what we talk about. So I brought the book today, Creative Confidence. Everyone read it. Such an amazing book. Just ties into this ThriveCast so much. Creative Confidence, especially the 2 episodes with Ty Gibson, but beyond that too. And a lot of what we talked about, this is kind of a general answer, but part of what we talk about is a theme that we kept coming back to in the class, is failure. That every creative endeavor like requires failure. Like it's not even option. Like it's just goes with the territory. Like if you're gonna score, score in a basketball game, you're also going to miss. There is no one who hits 100% of their shots. Like, and you're gonna lose some games. And if you're gonna learn to ride a bike, you're gonna fall over sometimes. And if you like just everything, like failure is there. So we just have to get out of our mind that failure is a bad thing. Failure is part of the process. Like anything we want to accomplish, anything we want to do, we're gonna fall down. Like trying to learn Korean in when we were teaching in Korea, and my wife tells stories about instead of ordering gochujang, or trying to not have gochujang, a hot pepper sauce, telling him to keep I think it was juchajang off. It's like hold the parking lot. Like you're gonna like you're gonna like you're not gonna learn the language without making mistakes, and those stories become part of what makes life fun. And there's just no part of life. And so living within a pandemic, like we're not going to get it right every time. We're all sorting this out for the first time. In living history, we can read back what happened in others, and try and listen to scientists, and listen to people that are encouraging us how to have good mental health through this time. But we're going to fall down sometimes. And so like if we get depressed, like we don't need to beat ourselves up for it. Like we're doing a hard thing here. Like if we so like just all kinds of mental health things, and I shared that one. But it's like if you're having a hard time, like you don't need to hide that. Like let's talk about it. Like talk to people who can support. Because this is a hard time. This it's for our lives, it's unprecedented. In human history, it's certainly not unprecedented. But for our experiences, our first time to sort this out together. So we got to do it together. And so to give students permission, give ourselves permission that we don't have all the answers through a pandemic. And when a family member dies, and we're like, should I go home? Or if I do, then I have to quarantine and isolate. How do I do that? And it's just so many hard things we're all sorting out. And so to find people you can talk it out with, to give yourself a break, that you're probably not going to have all the right answers, and you're probably not going to keep every area of your life balanced right now, but we keep striving for it. Like, okay, I need to, if I'm letting down the exercise part, okay, I got to remember I can do a little bit, I can add back. Or if I'm neglecting some relationships, like, okay, I can put a little bit more back into that to try and balance. And so just encouraging the students in that creativity class to, give yourselves a break and just keep trying, keep experimenting with how life can be during the pandemic, during, life's an experiment. And so we just keep trying, and, okay, that didn't quite work. So I'll figure out a new schedule, or, that person didn't turn out to be real helpful to talk to when I needed a hard time. So it doesn't mean I just give up talking to people. I find a new person that, I take that social risk with. Maybe it's a new RA, or it's a certain friend that looks trustworthy in a class we get to know more. Or, you just keep trying. You keep like, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to get back up. That Proverbs, a righteous person falls down 7 times and gets up 8. I know I'm misquoting it, but then we just keep getting back up. We try it again. We're going to fail again. Like, we both have young kids, they fall all the time. Like God knows. And And we need to accept that that's who we are. That's what it is to be human. Stay human. Michael Ferrante, stay human. Embrace it. Recognize it. Don't try to think that you're going to get through it without problems or stress or depression or loneliness. Like, we just keep looking for solutions. We keep getting back up. We keep looking for the community and to be a healthy part of that community, to any piece we can bring to it.
So much goodness in what you said. Like, if I can just capture and reframe something in regards to, like, just listening to a couple of things that you said that resonate. And if I can start at the latter part of it with the and hello to everyone. Thank you for joining again. We're in Thrivecast season 2. I'm getting to know one of my colleagues, friends, also a spiritual guide. He hasn't known this, but Jeff Boyd, the one and only, a man of many different hats, but one word, background. He's in the background. And but Jeff, like, talking about the perspective of these things that children do that we can learn from. There's this quote, and I'm just paraphrasing that. It's interestingly, as adults, we seem to miss this. Like, when kids are learning to walk, we recognize that they're going to fall. So whenever they fall, we applaud for them to get back up. But unfortunately, when it happens as adults, we get down on ourselves. We critique, and it's just so interesting how we can learn so much from the child to actually have the fortitude, not the knowledge yet fully, because they don't necessarily know to put one leg, but they're recognizing that I just want to kind of place a pin in this, because I was asking for something and you gave it to me so tangible, like how to move from surviving to thriving. You have to strive. I see we connect on that, but you can't stop, because that fear, knowing that is part of it, giving yourself permission, giving the break. I love the tangibles that you said, and staying human. If anything out of this, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. Normalize, humanize the realities that we're all experiencing on unprecedented times. But the beautiful of things that are unprecedented, it actually requires creativity to traverse through these times, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's just, Jeff, let me give you a hug real quick, bro. Man.
So I want to hear from you on that same question. Like, how are you making it work? Because when I hear all the things that you're doing, plus the family and I know the physical health side, like, how are you making it through this time? Or what are you doing to do this as well as you can?
There's two things. I just listened. There's a podcast by Krista Tippett on being. Yeah. I listened to a Jewish creative, and he has a rabbinic teacher that survived the Holocaust, and there's two things that he learned in regards to creative freedom that is so important. It's about one, reflecting, creating space to reflect, right? Because we can, during these times, we can be so bogged down by thoughts of what if, what's next, and he talked about the fact that the space in between words are important, and like even the white space. As you're a communication person, I dabble into graphic design and web design. White space is so important to making sure that people can see the message. And it's the same way in our minds. In times where there's so much difficulty, we need to just take time, just like Pastor. We need to take forced pauses.
With Carson,
we need to take forced pauses. So the first thing that I learned from the podcast is that my first moral choice during this time, and before I can express creative freedom, is to have a moral choice of hope. I have to hope that this will get better, but in that hope is just like hope lives. Hey, good plug. But even in that, and shout out to everyone that's here with us today. But the thing that I really want to hone into is I'm about to graduate next semester. And as most people don't know, I was an advisor at a larger university. Most people don't know I taught undergrad basketball here. And one of the things with students, although they're like there's this microwave mentality, like I'm more concerned with what's happening with me presently. The difficulty in staying present contradicts that notion. So they're
Nice.
always, I'm more focused on what's happening now, but they were always concerned about what's happening after graduation. So the next thing I learned in this moment is just to stay present, be present with the present. You know, and my wife knows this because my wife, she's already thinking, hey, I want warmer weather. I want a home. I want somewhere to, I want a big yard that Canaan can run and fall and get back up, and we applaud him. But I only have the capacity to focus on graduation right now.
Okay.
The important thing is, as married couples and as friends, that people know us so well, just going back to what Ty said, we don't communicate that. So during these times, we're not communicating what's happening inside of us, and we don't actually have the language to describe what's happening inside of us. So when I'm present, I'm actually taking a forced pause and saying, inside of me, you know, what are the emotions I'm experiencing and where am I feeling it? You know, is it in my back? You know, is it tense? And then I try to travel in my body in a place that is either pleasant or neutral, and giving me the space to start to think about, you know, where I'm at, and then also then the next steps. You know, so that's how I've been finding the balance. So I learned that I'm not great at multitasking, but I'm great at doing everything horribly well. So that I've learned to actually spend just time focusing. And Kobe Bryant taught me this. Basically, he said, take things in, instead of letting people micromanage your life, just take things in bits and pieces. And so he was just challenging, like, just do something for 10 minutes each day. You know, it becomes a discipline, a habit. And then eventually you'll want to do more, but you learn that habit. So I just take 10 minutes each day just to reflect. Like I just told my wife just recently, you know, when we stop doing something, we add something else. I said, no, I just take time to do nothing, you know, and that has been the most freeing thing during this time. You know, that was a long way of me telling you that I'm lazy.
Not a chance. No way. No, that's so, I mean, that's something we talk about in the creativity class, is the importance of pausing to let your brain process. Like, you know, there's a movement, bored and brilliant, like to give our brains enough time to get bored so that it can do the processing, it can do the emotional and creative processing. Like when we're going nonstop, like that's just not what our brain was made to do. I mean, that gets to the Sabbath, like, okay, slow us down that way, but on a daily, I love what you're saying there. That's really meaningful.
I'm going to take the reins from you real quick because I don't get to do this a lot. And shout out to yes, Saturdays are very good for reflecting. But interestingly enough, traditionally I've learned to, Oswald Chambers says this thing, and I don't want to go too far off tangent, but shout out to Professor Walsh. In our biblical spiritual foundation class, he just wanted us to take a retreat, you know, from classwork and everything, and just reflect. But what we found is Oswald Chambers said the biggest competitor for God working in us is the work of God. You know, so we never take a moment to stay still, you know, and let God be God in our lives. And also in a tangible way, I think as we're getting to the close of this, it's important to highlight some of the most memorable moments that has happened, because I want to whet some of the individual palates here to know that you've missed out on like 3/4 of your life, honestly, going to something that you just kind of getting on what you said in regards to taking pause for our minds to order the things that's happening when in the boredom state. What stood out to me was what Ty Gibson said. He said that when we dream, it helps us order the things that's important. I see you that. I was like, that's such a beautiful thing to say. So I actually want to kick it back to you. And as we're getting to a close here, I do have one more question, but most importantly, you've done a lot behind the scenes. You've seen a lot, and it's sometimes hard to actually stay present. But I found beautiful moments in the background. So, what's one of the most memorable moments for you that has happened thus far? As whether it's you did highlight the Rachel, the Thrive feature. Is there any other ones that stood out to you?
Oh man, so they have been so good. I love producing this podcast because every episode is pushing me and making me think and opening my mind in different ways. Some of the stuff you've highlighted, like on the neuroplasticity and rest, and so many pieces. That one with Rachel Keel, that was really something.
Yes.
I so maybe, and you've also mentioned Ty, but I think I'll highlight those two episodes too. The last week's with Ty Gibson, and then episode 7 was both seasons were with Ty. So when that one was on, I was teaching the peace class or the creativity class, and I told the students, like, check out this conversation. Like, this is ties so much into what we're talking about in this class. So that was meaningful, and in my own pursuit of creativity. And then his most recent one on that same theme. I love how he approaches those questions of this open universe that's open to freedom and creativity, and that's what God has made us. We're created in God's image to keep creating, and it's something I talk about in that creativity class, like that our ability to tap into and utilize the different ways that we're creative, because we're all creative differently. We have multiple ways. Some of those creative ways, like that's how we bless the world, is with our creativity. And like every good thing we experience in the world is either directly from God through God's creativity, or as us humans taking it and doing something with it with our creativity, from music to food to clothes to phones and just all the experiences we create. And that this creativity is just such a central part of being human. So stay human, keep creating. Like that's what God created us to do in whatever way. Like every discipline, every field, you're creating something. Whether you're a teacher creating lesson plans and learning experiences, or you're in the medical profession creating healing environments and interventions. And like, it's not only painters and musicians who are creating, it's like we all create in some way. That's what we're created to do. Like this book, the fundamental idea is that we are all creative, we are all creators, and that's like, so coming at it from a spiritual standpoint, like that is what, like, as children of God, made in God's image, that's what we are. And so those episodes, and all of our episodes, it hit into it in some way, but where the two with Ty, where he really is directly addressing creativity, they just really, really speak to me in that pursuit. So I'll highlight those two, but every episode, I love this. I love this podcast.
You're beaming with like this natural glow when you talk about it. And as we get to a close here, I think I have to actually do this because you've experienced it, I've experienced it, and you share a little bit about what this, because sometimes some people are just like, is the integrity and the need to be authentic, right? And sometimes we're putting on programs, initiatives, and things, and it sound good. They look, because graphic designers and all this stuff is great. But I'm very curious, like, why are you still here? What does this podcast mean to you? And that's why I just want to just leave with, like, why are you still a part of this? Because it does take work, right? You do have other things on your plate. But if you were able to, like the three boys had 3 sentences to say why they're going to continue to serve their God. And even if he doesn't come to save them, that's who they're going to serve. Like, what are your 3 sentences? What's your elevator pitch? I know you got to have some time to think about this. You have like the last 2 minutes here to think about this. Why would you even tell someone to invite someone into this space and hang on? Like, what does this mean to you? And why should someone else, why would you encourage someone else to join in this space?
I'll give an attempt, and then how about you have the final word with your own answer for that? I'm really curious. Man, 3 sentences. So I'm looking at some of the notes I had scribbled, like things I might want to hit today, and I'm trying to think how would they come together quickly in three. Why am I still here? This podcast is about the tools and the ingredients for a whole, meaningful, thriving life. And I want more of that. And I want that for other people. And this is one of the ways, one tool uh, uh, that we can do that. You know, as a university, uh, uh, that we, you know, world changers, like as peacemakers, creative world changers, we are the world we're trying to make better. The world that we are trying to change is to make it more thriving, to make it more whole, to make it more alive, to make it more real, authentic, to make it more inclusive. And I hope and I believe, from my own experience, I believe this podcast, this helps us. Like, this is one tool in our way of making us into those peacemakers, world changers, creative problem solvers that God's calling us to be in the world. So I look forward to all the future episodes and to move out of the present. Like, I can't wait to all the other conversations. And I've actually been re-listening to some of the old and like remembering lessons there. It's like, yeah, that is so far beyond 3 sentences. That's just ridiculous. Your turn.
So we have a minute left. And again, those that are with us, we've been dialoguing on things from creative, striving, the aspect of just making sure that you are understanding that shalom, peace, is a holistic endeavor. We've talked about some kind, robust language and how to give yourself permission to continue to succeed in spite of failure. We've talked about balance in spite of all the things that we have to put on our plates. And we talked about it from the student perspective, administrator perspective. We talked about the task that how we've been united, because I'm not sure Jeff and I would have united intentionally on our own other than working on this Thrivecast. We talked about it from the Andrews University perspective as world changers. We talked about it from the global perspective of the pandemic. We talked about Creator God. And in closing, I think what's very imperative for me to highlight here is take it to just the simplicity of what you said. The soundtrack of life, like we're all on this milestone, I would call life, right? But there's mile markers in which we need to get off, like these exit signs, these destinations. For some of us, it's 15A here in Berrien. But the reality is that we all have a soundtrack that's playing, whether it's in the background, whether it's actually in our earbuds. For those AirPod users, throw them in the trash, grass, whatever you can. But what we have to remember is at the end of the day, we must stay human. You know, we stay human. And thriving calls for that in a genuine way. We must recognize the humanity in our own struggles so that we can strive and thrive. But we also must recognize that as we too endeavor to thrive, we must also call others into that space so that their creative freedom is not actually barricaded by their inability to thrive. So, Jeff, I just want to say thank you. Those that are here with us, thank you for sharing this sacred space. We recognize that we're not just doing a Instagram live. What we are actually doing is asking that you revitalize your humanity in this space. Because when we are called into this Shabbat Shalom, we cannot have a restful experience. We cannot become sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit if we do not just activate the creativity of that rest. So today, I just want to encourage the students to listen to on IGTV at Andrews. Look at all the work that Jeff is doing on YouTube. Andrews Speak podcast. We have more than just here. I want you to tune into the University Faith app. We have World Changer Week happening right now.
That's right.
So if you don't have something to do, if you think you're not creative enough, guess what?
just join the fun. Just join the fun. We all have something we can do. The thing is, just do it. I'm not promoting Nike, but I think they have a mantra that we can use. Just do it. I thank you, Jeff. And hopefully, if there's anything else you want to say to the students or to anyone else, the space is yours.
I just I thank you for this opportunity. I will look forward to moving back to the background and listening to future conversations. But it has been really meaningful, this whole experience through all these episodes, Denard, with you, and now this conversation. And so I just thank you. I thank all the listeners, watchers for joining this journey, sharing this journey, and God lead us forward in humility.
Wow. Bye, everyone. All right, Jeff. Thanks again.
Peace.